My name is Paul Natorp, and I want to talk about passion and creativity and personal growth. And I want to talk about how we in education can create a climate and a culture where that is nurtured. Yeah, so that is me. Good day to you all. And I'm professional in education. That is what I do. So I want to share my own learning journey, and I want to share the insights that I have gained along this way. And my own journey starts 7 years ago, and it starts in this place. This is a backyard in a city in Denmark, and in the backyard there's a school. And I started working there 7 years ago. The school is called the Chaos Pilots, like pilots of chaos. And it's an education for young entrepreneurs. And young people come there, spend 3 years of their life experiencing, practicing, and learning how to turn ideas into reality, and how to participate in creating a future for themselves and for others that's both attractive and sustainable. Don't think these are my slides. Sorry. I don't know what happened here. Could I get some assistance? Yeah. It's a school that is special in many ways. It grew out of a cultural project about 20 years ago. And a survey that is done a couple of years ago showed that 1 out of 3 graduated chaos pilots start their own company. We have about 100 students from countries all over the world. When I was hired to do this job, to start working at the Chaos Pilots, I didn't have many ideas about what it actually means to be a good teacher or an educator. I've been a student myself for 17 years. I've been to primary school, secondary school, later on university, and most of my professional life then I've been working in business. As a business manager and as an entrepreneur for 10 years. And I hadn't really paid much attention to how other people learn. I guess I'd been too busy learning myself to do a good job, or maybe I'd just been too busy. And now I was taking over the responsibility of a team of 35 students from Denmark, Norway, Sweden, and Iceland. And the first day I started work, I enter the building, and the first thing I hear is a beautiful flamenco tune. And it's Rasmus sitting with his guitar and playing. Rasmus is a third-year student that had volunteered to be my assistant for the first couple of weeks in this new job. And we meet and talk, and the students start arriving slowly, all welcoming me warmly. And what was ahead of us, me and the students, was a semester where they were going to organize a European outpost. And that means that the education would physically take place in countries all over Europe, and they would be working in projects, exploring new urban development. And there were a couple of partners lined up for them to work with. The university with a team of 30 international students, as well as a major consulting company. So there were enough of challenges ahead of us. And usually, when I'm beginning a new job, it's really important for me to show that I know what I'm doing. And in this case, I was on really thin ice. Because in this new role, I was a beginner. And for a moment, I considered starting this new relationship with my students by telling this adventurous young crowd how to do good projects. Like start telling them the do's and the don'ts of project work and sharing my expertise. But also I knew that it was probably not a very good idea. And I'd taken a big shift in my own life from being co-owner of a technology company with 20 employees to now working at this education that to me seemed more like a grassroots movement than actually a proper education. And I knew that I was here to learn something myself. So instead I told them that I don't really think of myself as a teacher, and I want us, you, me as a team leader and you as the students to experience and to learn together. And what happened was that Within a couple of weeks, they started self-organizing into 6 teams that traveled through 20 countries in Europe, exploring new urban development. They created projects, they raised money, they found partners, and they published a book with their learnings. And this was the first important stop in my own learning journey. And what I discovered was that if we want to create a space for people to grow and really to learn, it matters a lot how we think about each other and how we look at each other. And this was probably one of the most powerful interventions I've done in my professional life as an educator. I shared my own vulnerability and my desire to learn with my students. And most importantly, I chose to look at them as creative, resourceful, and whole human beings that are worthy of responsibility and trust and are capable of finding good solutions themselves. So I learned that by deeply believing that people are capable, we become much more powerful in activating these capabilities. Later on, I found out that this is a very important cornerstone in the learning philosophy of the Chaos Pilots. And it can be seen in many stories from that place, how that works. And one of the stories has to do with a photograph that is on the desk of Karen. And Karen is a wise and caring woman that has been working at this place for 17 years, and she's the holder of a lot of these stories. This is the photograph. And the guy to the left is Michael. He used to be a student at the Chaos Pilots, and when he applied for this education, he had to fill in a questionnaire. And the last question on this questionnaire was, what do you want to do with your education? What do you want to use it for? And Michael didn't know what to answer. But a couple of months earlier, he had been traveling in Tibet. And one night, while he was asleep in his tent in Tibet, he had this dream. He dreamt that he was the coach of the Tibetan national football team. So now, sitting with this application, he decided to write, I want to be the coach of the Tibetan national football team. Later on, Michael has told me that when he wrote this, he thought, well, there is no Tibetan national football team, so at least the people at the Chaos Pilots will think that I have humor. But somehow they didn't think of it as being funny, or at least they seemed to take me seriously. And what happened is that along the way, Michael started exploring this dream as a realistic possibility. Back to the photograph. The man standing to the right is His Holiness, as you might have guessed. And the occasion where this picture is taken is at a press conference that happened 3 years after Michael had written his application. And it happens when the Tibetan national football team was playing their first match ever against Greenland in Copenhagen. And as you also might have guessed, Michael actually went on with his dream. And he surprised not only himself, but also many others by making it a reality. He wasn't the coach for the Tibetan national football team, but he was the guy who got the idea, who took action on it, and who created a project that turned it into reality in collaboration with the government, Tibetan government in exile in Dharamsala. And as the manager of the team, and his name is Karma, as Karma pointed out, this is about much more than football. We're playing for a nation that is longing for its freedom. When Michael came to the Chaos Pilots with his dream, he was met with an attitude of trust and of caring. People thought of him as being worthy of having this dream. And by being met in this way, Michael started thinking, maybe I can become the coach of the Tibetan national football team. Maybe. At least I can try. New students that come to the Chaos Pilots and see the picture, this photograph on Karen's desk, they might start thinking themselves, maybe I can do the project that I'm dreaming of. Maybe my teammates can. At least we can try. So what I learned from this experience is that real change happens when we start looking at ourselves and each other differently. And that as an education, it is really important to create a space for dreams to live and to grow. The powerful thing about dreams and having the courage to pursue them is that it's an enormous driver in any learning effort. And I believe it has to do with a longing we all have inside of us somehow. We have this longing for purpose and passion in our work and in our life. We want to use our talents. We want to express our true nature. We want to do meaningful and constructive work, and we don't want to be alone. A lot of education has been about meeting young people, and this is a really strong driver in young people, because we're very eager when we're young, and also we're sometimes confused, and we're looking for this place in society where we can fit in, and therefore it becomes really important how we are being met and what people tell us that it is we have to do. And in a lot of education, teachers have been telling students what to do and how to do it. And students spend years of hard work trying to live up to predefined standards in order to gain our approval. And I believe this can be quite efficient when it comes to taking in formalized content and behavior in order to fit into a job. A side effect of it, however, is that on a subconscious level we teach our students that their job is to do as they're told to, and that the purpose of their work is to be evaluated and to be judged through grades, appraisals, promotions, or whatever mechanisms we have put into place in schools, in workplaces for that kind of feedback. And I've seen amazing passion and creativity arise when students have had this place to recognize their dream and have managed to find a way of expressing it in their work, and when they've been in a place where they're with a support system, supplying them with trust, with guidance and tools along the way. So what I learned is that as teachers, we must get out of the way of our students, and we must stand by their side to support them. I want to share with you 3 stories that are examples of work that students have been doing and are doing, and that give an image of what this can lead to. And the first story is about Nils and Henrik, and they love bicycles. And when Nils was traveling in Tanzania, Uganda and Kenya, he discovered that in Africa, bicycles have a much larger role than what we know it from Europe. People carry large amounts of goods on bicycles and water, and it saves them a lot of time if they don't have to walk. When they're sick, sometimes they can be carried into hospital on a vehicle that is a rebuilt bike, a bike ambulance, so it can save lives. What I also found out is that bikes are very expensive in Africa compared to the average income. We're talking about Eastern Africa here, and that they're of a very bad quality. Coming back to Europe, they discovered that here it's all different. We have bikes because it's cheap, it's convenient, and thousands and thousands of bikes are being scrapped every year because we prefer buying a new one instead of repairing the old. So what they did was that they started collecting bikes in Denmark, old used bikes, and they shipped them to Tanzania, where they were repaired and sold. And they turned it into a company. The company is called Baisikeli. Baisikeli, that means bicycle in Swahili language. And what they do is that they run a business in Denmark where they rent out bikes to tourists and companies. And then they could use that money to collect bikes, send them to Tanzania. There they run workshops and a bike mechanic education. The bikes are being repaired and rebuilt and sold. And now they have even designed a sustainable bike for use first in Europe and then in Eastern Africa. And the quality of their workshops is now so good that they soon will start producing bikes locally. And they're expecting next year to open the first bike factory in Eastern Africa. Story number 2 is about this group of young women. It's Rebecca and Julie and Toya and Trine and Katrine. In 2004, they traveled to Sarajevo to learn about new urban development from a city that was rising after a destructive war. What they found was a generation of disillusioned youth, and they found a former youth house, the Dom Mladic, that used to be a place sparkling with creativity and now was partly destroyed and inaccessible to the youth. And the youth was longing for a voice, a place to meet and a way to express themselves. So what they did was that they started working with organizations locally and created this project that was about giving back a voice to the young generation. The project is called Ask Sarajevo. And what happened is that 600 young people painted their dreams they had for the future on a huge piece of canvas, 5,000 square meters. And the canvas was used to cover this building, the Dom Mladic, the youth building, in an event with music, performance, and media, lots of media. So on this day, the youth really had a voice. And actually, it could be heard all the way to Oslo, because in Oslo, the canvas was turned into clothes and pieces of art. It was exhibited and sold at an auction. And with this money from the auction, the team went back to Sarajevo, started a youth organization with the purpose of bringing this youth house back to its original use. The third story I'm going to share with you is about a hot dog stand. And about its owner, a young woman called Fanny. And this is a very special hot dog stand because this is the world's most traveled hot dog stand. Fanny is traveling the world with a piece of popular Danish food culture. 3 years ago, she crossed the North American continent from coast to coast. 2 years ago, she went to China. 1 year ago to Japan and to Spain. And this year, she spent 1 month at the World Cup in South Africa. And in all of these places, the purpose was the same: to collect money for humanitarian causes. So she's giving away the hot dogs for free. It's financed by sponsors. She collects money for humanitarian causes. But the larger idea is to inspire people to make a positive change for others. So back to my learning journey. What can we learn from all these stories? What I learned is that young people filled with purpose and passion again and again find surprising approaches to important challenges in the world. And then I can ask myself, what is it that helps them get so far? And how do they find the courage to venture into the unknown, to go for the unknown? And what I learned is that the Chaos Pilots is much more than just an education. It's a place of support. Because whenever you go out and take a big risk in your life, it's important to know where to find safe ground. At the first day at school, the students receive a key to the building so they can enter 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And they get a business card with their name on and a Chaos Pilot email address. And what that tells them is that this is your building, this is your education, you are already a Chaos Pilot, you belong here. And they also learn that whenever they venture into something that is very challenging, then remember to build a system of support around you. We are all here today because we want to learn how we can shape education for a changing future. So the question is, with all these stories, what can we learn from this? What can we take from it? And while pondering on this question, I came to think of some really good friends I have that run this education in Copenhagen with a fantastic name. It's called the Academy of Untamed Creativity. And it's actually much more than an education. It's a place where amateurs and professionals get together in different artistic disciplines. So they do circus, performance, theater, dance, music, writing, painting, cooking, and, as they say, the art of living a good life. What really fascinates me about this place is what they do, and then it's the name they have that shows a way of looking at the world. And this metaphor of untamed creativity, what they see is that the untamed animal looks for and finds food by itself. In contrast to this, the tame animal sits and waits until it gets served, and it becomes dependent on it. And I believe we can learn a lot from this. And it all fits well with what I've been trying to bring into focus. As educators and teachers, it is not our job to tame our students. I believe that an important part of our job is to untame our students, to help them express who they are, use their talents, and find food themselves. And now my learning journey has brought me here to Bilbao. And I'm standing here with you, and I would like to use this occasion to share a dream that I have. And this dream is building on what I've learned during these years. And my dream is that I imagine a time when educations are places where people come alive, use their talents more and grow, because we remember to look at each other as creative, resourceful and whole human beings, because we create a space for dreams to live and grow, because we get out of the way and stand by the side of our students, and because we give the keys to communities of support. And I'm sure also because we remember to learn ourselves along the way. So this is what I have to say. Thank you very much.